when you're on and do whatever you want. I said, okay. And then when this show was launched 10 years ago, the program director who launched it at the time said, what are you going to call the show? I said, I don't know. It's your channel. What do you want to call it? He said, let's also keep it Trunk Nation. So that's how that whole thing started. It wasn't, in neither case was it my idea. The one time, though, born out of necessity, because I didn't want to call it Hair Nation when I was on, because I wanted to do a wider spread of things. And I, to this day, am not a fan of the terminology of hair metal or hair band describing that music, and prefer not to use it. Little history lesson as we start the week today here. And hope you guys had a good weekend, whatever it is that you got into. I went to see AC/DC, and I guess we should just jump right in with that, and I'll give you my review, my report. I will mention that there was a show here in Vegas on Friday as well that I was at very, very briefly. Todd Kerns, who recently played with Triumph, you also, of course, know is part of Slash's band, plays with a ton of different people, ton of different artists throughout Canada and around the world as well. Very talented guy. And, of course, part of the duo when we do our Canadian Roundtable shows, which we haven't done in a long time. And the only reason for that is because Todd and Brent Fitz have been on the road constantly with various artists. Not just Triumph, but they do other stuff too. And they've got their own band, Took. So they're always traveling. They're always very hard to nail down these days. So that's the only reason why we're super overdue to do a Canadian Roundtable with those guys. So when I can get that together and we get everybody on the same page, maybe we can do that sooner than later. But Todd played a show that was a small club behind the Bootlegger Bistro restaurant. There's a room back there called the Copa Room. Not to be confused, it's very confusing if you don't know Vegas that well, because we currently have two venues in this town that have the same exact name. They call them the Copa Room. One is behind the Bootlegger restaurant, and the other is in a casino resort called Tuscany, not far away from the other one. And for whatever reason, they both have the same name, and they both have maintained the same name. So it's you got to make sure you know which one you're going to and which one the event is at. This one was at the one behind the Bootlegger. And I was out with friends on Friday, so I did not catch a lot of this show, but I did go for a little bit, and it was packed, which was great to see. There were a lot of Vegas locals that got up and jammed with Todd. It was billed as Todd Kerns and Friends. So we had Zach Throne up there. He had Bruce Kulick that jumped up there and did a few Kiss songs. I did catch some of that. Stacey Blades, who's currently playing with Ricky Rocket, formerly of LA Guns, he jumped up and played some songs. So it was cool. It was cool to see so many people out for Todd. And I probably stayed for about a half an hour before I had to get out of there, just because the group of people I was with had other things going on. So that was Friday. But of course, the big thing was AC/DC on Saturday. AC/DC played Vegas and played Allegiant Stadium almost exactly a year ago. And they are back for another round. Same exact bill, same exact everything, same exact venue, Allegiant Stadium. So it felt totally like deja vu all over again, because a year ago it was the same opening act, the same thing being billed as the Power Up Tour, and the same venue, and seemingly everything just repeat a year later. And clearly a band of AC/DC stature, they can do that because the place was packed. When you get to these levels that AC/DC and Metallica and others have, the whole, where they started in the metal community, if you will, that's all long out the window. sure, there's an element of the fan base that still comes from that era when those bands were very much a part of that. But when you're a band that has become so mainstream and has albums, in both cases of both bands I just mentioned, that are among the biggest selling records of all time, you clearly cross into a whole other threshold of becoming the most mainstream of mainstream, meaning that you see every sort of type of person at these shows. People that would never listen to a heavy rock record go to these shows. People that go just because they know the hits. And of course, the deep old school fans that know everything. So it goes without saying, it is a massive mainstream audience of people super young to people way old. And that's what you see at these events. And this was no exception in AC/DC coming back a year later and selling out the same stadium. Pretty impressive, but really not that surprising when you consider how huge and how they've become pop culture. How these bands just morph into this pop culture world where they are everywhere. And their music is everywhere, and it's heard in every possible way, from TV commercials to movies to, again, the mainstreaming of it. It just goes to a whole new level. So really, there's not a lot I can tell you about this show that has not been said already, because AC/DC are now in their second year, maybe third year, of doing this exact show. They are still branding it the Power Up Tour, even though the Power Up album now is probably over 5 years old. But they're still using that branding, and they are still using that as the theme of the tour. And they're still playing a couple songs from that album in the set as well. So they're still working a record that's now over 5 years old as far as the branding of the tour. But then again, as we've seen, everybody likes to have a name on their tour and some branding of it, give their tour some sort of identity. So they could also just be going with that because it's kind of universal, Power Up, AC/DC, what have you. Pretty Reckless opened. We had Taylor Momsen on just, a week or two ago, and we talked all about them opening for AC/DC. As you've seen, AC/DC does not do any press at all. They're another band that does no interviews, basically nothing for any of their activities. I honestly can't think of AC/DC doing one interview in the last year or two. Certainly nothing in conjunction with this tour. And like I've said so many times, bands do press mainly because they have something to sell. But if you have a tour that's totally sold out and shows that are selling out, there's no reason for them to have to do it if they don't want to. Now, some artists love doing press. I've been talking about it a lot. For the last few years, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley have seemingly done every podcast on the planet. And some of it's not just to sell stuff. Some of it's just because they're doing it. I think maybe some of that comes with the fact that they're like semi-done with Kiss. And, a lot of these guys miss the attention. They miss talking about their accolades. They miss the exposure. They want to do something to feel like they're still connected. So some of it could be that. But if you're actively out there trying to sell something, sure, a lot of artists do press, whether it's a tour, an album, whatever. There's a reason for it. Very rarely will they do stuff just to do it, which, by the way, are usually the best interviews. But in the case of AC/DC, if you're selling tickets and these guys don't want to have to deal with doing press, they don't do it. There's been nothing. So we really don't know where all this is going, if anywhere, when this is done. But for years, we wondered if AC/DC would ever tour again, and now we have had them actively touring around the world for the last few years. To great success with no real problems. Pretty Reckless remain in the opening spot. They've basically opened all the shows. Look, I love the band. They are the only thing that's really changed since last year because now they do have a new album to promote. A great album, Dear God, that is out now. And they are doing a few songs from that in their live set. And they go over fine. Look, do I think the majority of people in the stadiums, when they go on, have any idea who they are? I would say probably no. Now, if the Pretty Reckless were on one of the Danny Wimmer festivals or Rocklahoma, which, by the way, they are on this year, so I'll be seeing them next there, sure, the mass amount of the audience knows who they are. It's way more their audience. At an AC/DC show, which is way more classic rock, older based, I'd say the vast majority of people in these stadiums have no idea who they are because it's a different audience. And guess what? That's great for the Pretty Reckless because that's exactly what you want. You want to get in front of people who don't know who you are or don't already know your music and hopefully turn them into fans. You know, if the other night, Saturday night, I don't know, there were 60, 70,000 people in that stadium. If 10% walk out of there now knowing a band called the Pretty Reckless and going to their Spotify's or whatever and checking off that music and listening to it, that's how you build a fan base. That's how you grow and grow and grow. So if you keep playing in front of the people who know you every time and your natural audience, you're not going to really expand beyond that. So it's a great opportunity for them for a lot of reasons, obviously, but that also being a big part of the reason. And they go over great. I mean, they certainly get applause and reaction and people like what they're hearing. But looking around, you don't see anybody singing the words to the songs because they don't know them. There was one part where Taylor Momsen tried to get the audience to do a sing-along. I think it was in Heaven Knows, and there was nothing coming back because they don't know the song. She's trying, you know, but it's definitely not their audience. But I think that's a good thing for the reasons I just stated. But they absolutely go over. They get a nice reception. They play an hour. Saturday, they went on at 7. They were done at 8. And AC/DC went on at 8:30 and were done around 10:30. AC/DC, like I said, virtually the same set, the same production, the same lineup. Stevie Young on rhythm guitar. And Matt Logg remains on drums. And Chris Chaney remains on bass. And those guys stay very much in the background. They are very much in a supporting role. Stevie Young walks forward just like Malcolm did when he's needed to sing backing vocals. Outside of that, he stays in the back along the amps. Chris Chaney, I don't think moves at all, pretty much stays back there, does his job. And Matt Logg, the drummer, phenomenal, by the way, phenomenal musicians, you know, but let's be honest. I mean, especially in the case of Chris Chaney and Matt, they're hired guns. You know, they're there to do the job and they do it extraordinarily well. That guy, Matt Logg, is perfect for that gig. I mean, Phil Rudd was so important to the sound of AC/DC. And again, whenever you change members, I don't care how accomplished they are, it's going to be different. Sure, Annika Niles is getting all this acclaim, rightfully so, as the drummer playing in Rush, as she should. She's doing a great job. But it's going to be different, and it is without Neil Peart there. Just like AC/DC is going to be different, and it is without Cliff Williams and Phil Rudd. The people they have are doing a phenomenal job. And look, in both cases, and we talk about this all the time, doesn't hurt the bottom line at all. Because people will just keep coming and coming and coming to see these bands, even with key members being replaced. Now, in the case of Phil Rudd and Cliff Williams, I'm not surprised at all. And I don't mean this with any disrespect to those guys, but the star of AC/DC is Angus Young, followed by very closely by Brian Johnson. And as long as they're there, AC/DC could go on forever. In the case of Rush, Neil very much was a star of the band, but the Rush fans are so rabid that they just, that's more of a surprising one. But 10 years gone, want to hear the songs again? Boom, there you go, selling out arenas all over the country as we speak. But going back to AC/DC, same supporting cast, and the only thing I would say to me that struck me between seeing them this year and a year ago is I think they were actually maybe a little bit better this year. Angus, what he's doing out there for 2 hours is incredible because he's still being Angus. He's still doing the duck walk thing up and down the stage. He's still doing a lot of the moves. He's still doing some of the jumps. Now, maybe not as high as he once did, but he's still kind of doing the little jumps. It's crazy. Sure, he's got white hair now, and sure, he's older, clearly, but he's still Angus. But to me, the most extraordinary thing is Brian Johnson. It is extraordinary in every way what Brian Johnson is doing right now. Brian Johnson, who is significantly older than Angus Young, Brian Johnson is going to be 79 years old in October. In just a couple months, Brian Johnson is going to be 79. What he is doing up there at almost 79 years old, a 2-hour set, doing all the lead singing. And again, remember this, they are on stadium-sized stages. They are on football field with the width of a football field stage with a big ramp that goes out in the front of the crowd. I defy you to find many 79-year-old people who could just move around for 2 hours like that, let alone do it while singing music like AC/DC's music in that way. And of course, it's all real and all live, as both bands are on this bill, proudly. AC/DC's not going to run tape. I mean, AC/DC actually probably has, like, in Thunderstruck, the, that chanting stuff. Again, that stuff doesn't bother me. I get it. You can't have a choir or whatever on a friggin' stage. But Brian Johnson is actually, of course, really singing live. There's no AI. There's no bullshit. There's no tracks. There's no nothing, as we see some artists blatantly doing right now. The man is 79 years old almost, and he is doing this still. And it is absolutely crazy. Because we talk about, and I talk about these freaks, as I call them in a positive sense, and you got to put Brian Johnson way up there because of the band he is fronting. He's singing these high-pitched lyric, vocals up over the volume of AC/DC behind him for 2 hours. They're not doing a 65-minute set, 2 hours, while traversing a enormous stage. Just the wind it takes to do that. And he's still Brian Johnson. He's still doing his little dance and his little, trotting around the stage. And it's crazy. Doesn't talk to the crowd much. After the first song, he said, we're here to have a party and play some rock and roll. And that's it. That's all he's got to do. Look, I know Brian. He's a phenomenal guy. He's been on my shows. What you see is what you get. There's no facade there. I think that's why he's so relatable and so many people love him. Because, yes, he is the singer in one of the biggest bands that ever existed, but he doesn't ever come off that way. And he doesn't privately ever at all. But I don't think this guy is getting enough credit right now for what he is doing at his age on a stage that big, singing that kind of stuff. Is it pitch perfect? Does it sound exactly like Back in Black? Of course not. There are a few things here and there he probably can't do, or some things tuned down. Sure. But is it way better than a lot of people 20 years younger than him are doing, or the people that, of course, are faking it, taking your money right now? God, yes. It's incredible. To me, much like when I saw Rush a month or so ago, and I came out of that show and I told you guys, I get all the attention is on Annika because Neil's not there. I get it. But to me, that was a given that they were going to find an accomplished drummer. To me, the star of the Rush show was Geddy Lee because of how great he sang the stuff and how great he was having to be the front person of that band at his age. Brian Johnson's got 6-7 years on Geddy Lee. And he is still up there doing it on way bigger stages, moving around way more, singing AC/DC. It's crazy. And of course, we know Brian had the hearing stuff go on, which clearly is behind him as well. It's remarkable to see. It's wonderful to see. And look, I don't know where this goes from here. Because, just like we've seen Guns N' Roses touring now for 10 years, essentially doing the same show. They're Guns N' Roses. They've also crossed into that pop culture, ultra mainstream world where they can keep doing that. So can AC/DC do that? Absolutely, if they wanted to. The problem and the big difference is, again, Axl is 60 whatever. Brian Johnson's soon to be 79. I cannot envision Brian Johnson in his 80s doing this. But then again, he looks great, and he's only a year removed from being 80, and he's doing it more than respectably right now. But, Mick Jagger, who is the benchmark, who I believe is 83, Mick Jagger is, they're talking about maybe doing shows next year. That's the ultimate freak of freak. But still, the way Mick sings and the Stones, who are also on football stages, different vocal approach. Brian Johnson's got to scream out Back in Black and Shoot to Thrill and, Let There Be Rock and Riff Raff. I mean, I don't know how that's a whole different register of singing. That's why I'm saying it's so crazy what he's able to do now. But I don't know, there's been some rumblings and some people have sent me this that they're on AC/DC mailing lists for tickets or whatever, and they had gotten this email that said, come see us Power Up for the last time. And more than one listener has sent me those screen grabs asking, does this mean it's over and this is a farewell? And the answer is, I don't know, because you can take that one of two ways. You can take that as this is the last time they're touring, branded as the Power Up Tour, or this is the last time they're touring and they're done. Angus is only 71. But the problem is his singer is almost 79. And even though his singer is still, as I've just raved, remarkable at what he's doing, there's just going to be, you're going to hit the wall here. So if Angus wants to keep this going, he's got to figure this out. You know, I mean, do they put out AC/DC with another singer? Can they get a few more years out of Brian? I don't know. The idea of AC/DC with another singer is insane to me. Obviously, we saw it briefly with Axl Rose in that situation that took place a few years back. But would they ever go down that road again? I'm not saying with Axl, but with somebody else, I don't know. I don't see that. I don't think it makes sense. It would seem crazy to me. But again, the idea of Rush touring without Neil Peart is mind-bogglingly crazy, and look what's happening. So there is precedent for all of these situations where we have seen the unthinkable and fans flock and spend hundreds or thousands of dollars still to go. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the idea of Kiss with two people dressed as Ace and Peter was so mind-blowingly crazy to me, I couldn't even process it. I didn't go, but people did go. So anything is possible, but in the here and now, you still have one of the most iconic bands in rock history, still pulling stadium crowds, still doing 2-hour shows, still all live, and still doing a more than respectable job delivering this, and not walking out of there feeling like, holy shit, those guys were old feeling. It's AC/DC. It's still super, super good. And I don't know what the runway ahead is. I don't know what they're going to do. Every time I went, when I went to see AC/DC last year, I was like, well, that'll probably be the last time I ever see him. Here we are back a year later. I just saw him again 2 nights ago. So who knows? I could be talking to you a year from now. Hey, I went to see AC/DC again in Vegas at the stadium. I mean, I don't know. But if you're going, enjoy. And they are as powerful as ever and still bringing it. And nothing to complain about. Now, last thing on the show, you probably saw this online. Brian Johnson almost, God forbid, had a serious injury happen to him. This is crazy, and somebody's probably just lost their job on that AC/DC tour right now. Because as you know, the last song of AC/DC shows is historically For Those About to Rock. And it was, once again, on Saturday. And they bring out the cannons and the whole fire, and they fire the cannons. It's been captured on video, and it's out there for you to see, but Brian was standing under one of the cannons, and the cannon dropped, and what looked like the charge in the cannon fell out and only missed hitting him on the head by looked like a few inches. Now, I don't know exactly what it was that fell out of the cannon, but I mean, it looked like it was, because those things have a charge in them for the pyrotechnic when they fire them. And it looked like it was probably that. But the whole nose of the cannon just drops. And then whatever was in the cannon, I'm pretty sure it was the charge, fell out on a string and just narrowly missed him. So not only was that scary, but when the front of the cannon drops, if that whole cannon fell off the front, I got to think that the cannon itself had to be anchored because when it fires. But God forbid if that thing fell, it could have killed him. So there was a major mishap at the very end of AC/DC in Vegas on Saturday that, thank God, just missed Brian Johnson. But whoever's in charge of setting that up, I would probably suspect does not have a job today. Because that, you are putting, I've talked about this before, and I spend a lot of time on stages, as you guys know, from, just hosting things for the last 43 years. Stages from every level, clubs to stadiums I've been on. Just on huge stages in Brazil a few months ago. I'll be on another huge stage Labor Day weekend at Rocklahoma when I host that. But whatever the stage is, you are putting so much faith into the people who set that stage up. If it's not a permanent structure, and a lot of stages are not, you're putting a ton of faith into the people who assemble that stage and break it down. You're putting a ton of faith and trust into the people that hang the stuff above you. If you ever walk out onto a stage for a concert, look up. Nobody ever looks up. Look up. Above you are tons of trusses and lights and metal and steel and things hanging from you, hanging above you. Whoever installed all that, you're basically entrusting them with your life. Because if you're on a big stage and a major piece of staging or a light drops and hits you on your head, you're probably dead. So it's a lot of trust in those people who do that work on these tours. And I don't know what happened with that cannon, but that was a pretty close call. So there's my report on AC/DC. We can talk about it more if you want. The merch, needless to say, is insane. I got to think AC/DC, probably AC/DC versus Metallica would be a great throwdown for the battle of merch sales. Both bands have iconic logos. Both bands sell an insane amount of merch. Both bands, when you go, you hardly see anybody not wearing one of their shirts. It's crazy. I can't imagine the money being made on merch. And AC/DC, also like Metallica and other huge bands, are setting up these pop-up stores in the towns they're playing a day before the concert. So you can go to the pop-up store, buy all your merch, and you don't have to carry it around at the concert, and you can put it in your room or wear it by getting it a day or two early. Here in Vegas, they did it at the Hard Rock on the Strip. They even had a private showing of it for media the day before. I was invited. I could not go because I had a conflict. But the merch lines, they even had I never saw this before. They had a merch stand, it looked like, set up on the floor of the concert while the Pretty Reckless were playing. People lined up. Almost everybody in the stadium wearing those flashing red horns. Which, by the way, I found out they only charge $25 for. They could probably get $50 for those. Now they probably pay $1 for them. So they're still making $24 a head. And when you see probably if there's 50,000 people in the stadium, 40,000 people are wearing the things, do that math. The amount of money is staggering when you consider what they're making on these things. But again, it's the music business. So there's plenty of merch out there as well. And most of these cities, they are doing these pop-up shops. So you have all the opportunity to buy if you are so inclined. All right, so there's my AC/DC report. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you guys who maybe saw them already or are going to see them on upcoming shows. I believe they're going into Canada for a few shows and back into the U.S. I don't have all the dates in front of me, but Joel, take a look for me. Let me know how many dates they have left in the U.S. or North America for that matter on this run, because I didn't look at the routing and where they're going and how much more they have left to do. But I'm pretty sure Vegas Saturday was pretty early in this run. And same deal, they're only playing like 2 shows a week because they need the rest.
Yeah, just pulling it up. It looks like next up San Francisco, then up to Canada for a couple, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another 4 in the U.S., then back to Canada, back to the U.S. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 or 14 shows left.
Where is the last show?
The last show is Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field on September 29th.
And is there anything on their itinerary after that?
No.
Okay, so look, is Philadelphia the last ever AC/DC show? I mean, currently scheduled, yes. I can't imagine if they were ending, they wouldn't end in probably Australia, but I don't know. When you're dealing with a band of this age, you just don't know. But again, Angus, when you talk about the age factor, Angus is still relatively young. And the supporting band that they have right now is relatively young. You know, the drummer and the bass player are probably 50s, early 60s. And Stevie Young is probably 60s. So the real question mark here, I think, for the overall future of the band is how much longer can Brian Johnson keep doing this? I really think that's really what it comes down to, because he's got 8 years on Angus. And the whole thing is marketed on Angus. You notice that. I mean, the whole band is marketed Angus now. With Brian also prominent, but it's all, of course there's shirts with Angus only on. Angus is the focal point. So knowing that, if Brian wasn't able to do more or couldn't do more, are you guys accepting AC/DC with another singer? I don't know. I would say it's crazy and they should know when to say when, but we're not there yet as Brian continues to defy the odds here. It's mind-blowing. That was my biggest takeaway coming out of that stadium Saturday. I was like, crazy. And I'm going to try to call Brian Johnson just to tell him this. I'm not asking for anything or whatever, but because I do know him. And just tell him, because he never, if you know Brian, he never really thinks much of what he does, So I don't know how much enforcement he gets like that from people. I'm sure he does, but it's crazy. All right, so anyway, there's AC/DC and still some more life left in the tank here, and we'll see where it goes from here. And still plenty of opportunities in Canada or America to see them, and I'm sure we'll be getting more calls as we go. Okay, speaking of age, today James Hetfield is 63 years old, speaking of Metallica, so happy birthday to James. Pretty amazing what he does considering the type of music they have to play at the level they play it, so still incredible. Other news to tell you about today, we had Adrian Vandenberg on the show a week ago, promoting a tour of America that he is now not doing. So we just did a whole thing with Adrian, and I got video I'm about to put up, and now that tour is not happening. Adrian is dealing with a health issue, some sort of blood infection or something. We certainly hope that he gets well soon. He has canceled, at the advice of the doctors, that tour. It's club level tour. If you were planning on going, you can get tickets at your point of purchase. Albert Bouchard, who is a founding member of Blue Oyster Cult, hasn't been in the band for a while, but was an original member of the band, has continued to put out stuff with the Imaginos concept, which was developed by Blue Oyster Cult's original manager, Sandy Pearlman, who was also a songwriter. Albert continuing to work off of those themes, making a new album called Imaginos 4, expected to come out September 25th. It's heavy concept stuff, and Albert is finishing off these writings that his former manager created. No surprise here. We know that the Osbournes are continuing to look at different branding opportunities for the late Ozzy Osbourne. It is no surprise at all that Sharon Osbourne is talking about bringing Ozzfest back in 2027, which of course was the touring metal festival that existed for many, many years. So expect Ozzfest to come back probably next year. John 5 has announced that he will be going out on a solo tour next year that will feature, for the first time ever for his solo band, The Creatures, a lead vocalist. All of John's solo touring has been instrumental as a trio. He's now bringing out Wednesday 13 as his lead singer. Reason being is that John plans to now play live music from his entire catalog of artists he's worked with. Catalog that includes Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, David Lee Roth, and of course now Motley Crue. I think this is a smart move for John because as entertaining as the shows are when they are all instrumental, just because John's such an incredible player, unless you are a real guitar nerd, you know, an hour and a half of guitar instrumental music is tough for a lot of people to take. So by doing this, John can play stuff from all these different artists he has worked with, and that's what he plans to do. Only one show with this lineup currently announced. That is at the Wacken Festival in Germany next year. John did hit me up. He does want to come on the show and talk more about this. He may even do it this week. I'll let you know as soon as that is nailed down. The only other guest we have confirmed right now for this week is Mastodon, which will probably air. I have to pre-record that. We'll probably air that for you on Wednesday or Thursday. And it's the 3 core members of Mastodon all coming on. Possibly Duff McKagan coming on to talk about the GNR dates happening in America right now as well. Waiting on confirmation on that. So yeah, that's the news on John 5. The other thing that happened over the weekend, pretty interesting. Richie Sambora was the special guest on one of these Kings of Chaos shows, the all-star band that Matt Sorum does. What's interesting about it is, you know, Sambora came out, played well, sounded good, sings really well. I mean, Richie's got a great voice. Did some Bon Jovi songs, but the other guitar player in the band was Phil X, who, of course, is Richie's replacement in Bon Jovi, has become a big part of Bon Jovi, just did 9 sold-out shows with Bon Jovi at Madison Square Garden. So it's just an interesting dynamic that they do this, and you've got the current Bon Jovi guitarist up there playing right next to the original guy who he replaced, playing Bon Jovi songs. And I saw a video on YouTube, and Richie comes out and fist bumped Phil, and they seem to be all good, but just an interesting dynamic there. Speaking of Matt Sorum, we had Matt on talking about this charity show he did in Palm Springs, California, Sound and Vision Live, that paid tribute to Paul Rodgers and Geezer Butler, happened back in March. Other guests on that show when it took place included Nuno Bettencourt, Lizzie Hale, Glenn Hughes, Charlie Starr, Steve Stevens, Corey Taylor. Well, now that has been recorded for a concert film and vinyl release. And they're going to screen it at the theater in Palm Springs on September 13th. I am jealous and envious of how Matt Sorum has pulled this off. Because as you know, I'm coming up on 3 years trying to figure out how to get my concert film out properly. Sorum has turned this around in months. I have to call him and ask him what he did, because I know all these artists certainly did not own their publishing. So how the hell he's doing this, I don't know. But good on him for doing it. Now, maybe he's just doing a screening of the concert film once, and that's it. And then he's not selling it. I don't know. But props to him for pulling this off very, very quickly and turning this around. He said he didn't even intend to record. He was recording it only for his own enjoyment, and it came out so good, he's going to put it out. Maybe he's just going to pay the penalties. I don't know.
It will be available on vinyl on Record Store Day, limited to 2,000 copies.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's still a release. All right? If you're limiting it to 50, you're limiting it only to vinyl, you're only putting it out on Record Store Day, whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter with the publishers. You're still putting it out. It's still getting a release. His is going to charity too, by the way, which mine was charity. But doesn't matter. He's still got to pay the piper on these sync rights. So I don't know how he's turned it around so quickly, but good on him for doing it. I seriously may ask him. TMZ has reported that Sid Wilson has been fired from Slipknot. Others are saying don't believe everything you read, which I've been saying forever in the world we're in now. But according to TMZ, he has been fired. Sid Wilson was mainly a turntable guy for Slipknot, spiking in all these sounds and stuff during their live shows. He also was at one point engaged to Kelly Osbourne. Now they have a child together, but are no longer together. But anyway, his status in Slipknot being reported to be done. So another change in that band. Allegedly. And Greta Van Fleet, who we were worried and questioning their status just a month or so ago, they kind of went underground and now have popped up and officially announced their new album called Palace for the People, coming out October 9th. A second track in advance of the album already released, which has come out today. The song is called Saw You Stand. Do I have that right, Joel?
Yep, you got that right.
Saw You Stand, which is a ballady track from Greta Van Fleet. So full album October 9th, 2 tracks out from it now released, and they are clearly not breaking up and clearly extremely active. All right, so a lot going on as usual starting the week on a Monday. We're going to give the rest of the show to you on the phones here on free-for-all mode. But Joel, anything you want to jump in and add before we get to the calls?
One more birthday. Ed Rolland is also celebrating his 63rd today. We also got news on Friday that the Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators record is set to arrive in February. We knew this album was, coming, but now it looks like we have a month to look forward to next year. And William Shatner kind of inadvertently revealed in a CNN interview that he's going to be playing with his band, The Fuckers, at Coachella next year. We already knew that he was scheduled for Riot Fest in September in Chicago, so it looks like he might be popping up at festivals with this new metal act.
Yeah, for those that don't know and haven't been following this, William Shatner, Captain Kirk, who I think you said is 95 years old.
Yep.
Recently survived cancer. Him and his daughter both had cancer at the same time and both thankfully survived. William Shatner is everywhere right now at 95 years old. And I did see some of that CNN interview with his daughter. I mean, the guy looks good, still has all his marbles, still sharp, and he is planning to start a career in a metal band and start getting all-star people to back him doing metal. An album has been talked about now for a year or so, and now live shows. It's crazy. And in the CNN interview, he talked about doing the metal band. He's like, oh yeah, I can't wait. I'm into it. I'm going to have all these great people. And he was like selling it on TV. So it's not a goof. He's like, I just love the energy of it. So that will be very, very, very interesting to watch unfold. And yes, we have a request in to have Mr. Shatner on this show. Huge fan of the original Trek. And yeah, never ever thought we'd be hearing about him coming into our world of metal in his mid-90s. But hey, maybe that means Brian Johnson can go till his mid-90s. Problem is, William Shatner is not going to be singing Back in Black. He's not going to try to do anything in that register of vocal. So there's the big challenge. There's the big difference. Maybe Brian Johnson of AC/DC can team up with the Brian Johnson who believes he's going to live forever, and they can come up with a plan. You guys know about that guy, the billionaire dude who's doing all this crazy stuff to himself to extend his life, and it's been a documentary on him and all of that. His name also is Brian Johnson. And hey, I hope he finds a way to do it. We could all benefit, right? All right, thank you for that, Joel. Let's do a break, and when we come back, we'll see what's on your mind. We'll get you guys in on a free-for-all, kicking off the week on a Monday here on Trunk Nation. Faction Talk 103, live or on demand anytime you want. Sirius XM app, first of two back-to-back shows on a Monday. We'll come back.
Now back to real conversation about real bands, playing real instruments, and making real music.
Not a laptop in sight.
This is Trunk Nation.
Never calculated, never scripted.
With Eddie Trunk, Sirius XM's Faction Talk.
All right, we are back. Got an hour here before we go over to the Hair Nation show. And again, we'll have a lot of time for your calls throughout the week. And we'll let you know what we're doing tomorrow because some stuff is a bit up in the air at the moment as usual. Definitely our confirmed guest this week will be Mastodon, and then we'll slot in around there as we go. I'd love to get a show where we can get maybe a top five or a throwdown in at some point as well this week. So we'll see what happens. Let's dig in, though, with you guys on the phones and give you the rest of the show. Cade in Utah gets us going. Hi, Cade. You're on the air.
Hey, Eddie. How's it going? First time calling in. It's been an honor to chat with you.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
So we were at the AC/DC show in Vegas on Saturday. It was amazing. This is the fifth time I've seen them live, and they're always great. I agree with you. They probably were a little better this year at Allegiant than last. Brian sounded even better this time. Probably aren't many, if any, bands playing that many hits and playing that well in 2026, so it's always a pleasure. But I have two questions for you. One, speaking of their hits, I've always wondered why in their set list they don't play Money Talks or Who Made Who anymore, which are two of their most popular and well-known songs, especially Money Talks, which was one of their highest charting singles, I believe. Anything that you know about why they don't play those? They have so many hits, but love those two. Would love to see them.
Well, the thing I'll say is this. They to your point, Cade, they do leave some big songs on the table in exchange for deeper Bon Scott era songs. I mean, I didn't look down the whole set list and figure it out exactly, but I would say set list makeup is probably pretty close to 50-50 Bon versus Brian. I mean, off the top of my head. So they do put some deeper tracks in there. Instead of some songs that were like those bigger MTV hit songs. I don't have an answer for you. It's a good point. But sometimes when there are songs that are left out like that, the reason is because of the singer having difficulty singing them. Because sometimes they just were recorded a lot higher than they were comfortable with or that they can still get to And those songs are pretty high up there. But everything with AC/DC is, but they might just be really hard on Brian to sing.
Yeah. Well, they do a great job with the set. I mean, there's so many songs, and they do the deep ones. They do a few newer ones. So they do a great job. I would love to hear those two, though, especially Money Talks, if ever the chance comes up.
Yeah.
My next question, I got to give you a little bit of a hard time. I believe we were in the section ahead of you. We were in 110, and I know you left a little early. I know you say it on the show. You always beat traffic. But For Those About to Rock has got to be one of the best live closing songs, if not one of the best live songs, period. So I got to give you a little bit of a hard time. When did you leave? And I saw the canon. I know that you weren't there for that when that fell, but that was obviously on social media. Thoughts on just the venue and the set list, and of course, I'll give you a chance to defend yourself for leaving early for one of the great ones. Thanks, Eddie.
See you. Thank you, Cade. Well, I actually left the area I was in a little bit early, but I did not leave the stadium until the end of the show. But I had friends that were all over that stadium. They were all over the place. And I was trying to make the rounds to see some friends that were there and people in various suites and different locations. But yes, I historically look, I am not a fan of stadium shows. I don't care who the band is. I think a stadium show is the worst environment to see a concert in, by far. So I admittedly am not a fan. It's not just the volume of people, it's the sound, it's the sight lines, everything. Sure, it's a spectacle, something at that level, but it's not if you really want to see a band. My gosh, the last time I saw, the best time I ever saw AC/DC in my life was at Roseland Ballroom, which no longer exists in New York City, and when it did, probably held 3,000 or 4,000 people. And that's probably 20 years ago. So probably right around For Those About to Rock was when I got a jump. Probably right around that point, because I knew what the set list was. And I had to get out because I had other people that I needed to meet, away from there. Because the problem, too, is that's the other thing. When you go to a stadium show, I've got 30 people there that are friends that are all texting me to get together. Oh, let's get a drink. And you can't get around a stadium. You can't get to somebody on the other side of the stadium. You can't get to their section. They can't get to your section. It's not a hang environment. You can't see these other people. You can't meet up with friends when you're not all seated together. So you got to meet them somewhere before or after in a different location. So I forget what his other question was. About those songs, though, I think I wouldn't know the answer, but I think a lot of times when people wonder about hit songs not in an artist's set, it is probably a concession to the singer, because sometimes singers just can't do that stuff. People always wondered why Ozzy didn't do Shot in the Dark for years, probably his biggest solo hit. After Crazy Train, at least for a while it was. He can't sing it. He couldn't sing it. Even tuning down, you can only tune down so far. The vocal's too high, the way he recorded it. So a lot of times there are songs that are left out of sets because of older singers' inability to do them anymore. When Scorpions did their last couple residencies here, people were asking me left and right, why aren't they doing Still Loving You? How are they not doing Still Loving You? Finally, I asked. That was the answer I got. Too hard to sing for Klaus. You got to remember what we're dealing with. We're dealing with singers in these cases that are, again, late 70s, man. It's crazy on them. I think Cade asked me something else, but I don't remember what. I'm sorry, Cade. Thank you. Here's Jeremy in North Carolina. Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Eddie. You have the job that all of us want, but none of us can do it as well as you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
All that you're doing for rock. Yeah, and just a couple of quick things. I want to tell you about a show I saw this weekend, but first I listened to you talking about AC/DC and the Pretty Reckless. My brother and I are going to see them in Atlanta later this month, and I can tell you my brother, he's a little bit older than me. He's in his early 60s. I'm in my early 50s. He has no clue who the Pretty Reckless is. And I firmly believe after we see them at the show, he's going to be looking up there. I like them a lot. He just won't listen to them probably beforehand. But I think what you're saying is true for them. It's good for them to be in front of an audience that's not typically their audience. And I think they'll definitely win him over. So I think that was well said there for that.
Yeah, and by the time I'd say about halfway through their set, again, they're on at 7. There was a good amount of people in the stadium by 7:30, 7:40. I was really happy to see that. There was a good amount of people in there. So by the second half of their set, they're playing to at least 50% of the capacity of the stadium. Still a lot of people in the parking lot, still a lot of people out in the hallways drinking, but they're definitely getting in front of a lot of people. It's an early arriving crowd for AC/DC.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely be there before Pretty Reckless comes on. We'll have our horns on and our T-shirts ready to go. So we're definitely catching Pretty Reckless as well.
Good.
But I also wanted to tell you, I believe I've heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that Grand Funk Railroad is a band that you think is one of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame snubs. I listen to you a lot on here, and I hear you talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I got to see them in concert on Saturday night at about a 3,000-seat theater here in Western North Carolina, and they were really good. And the current lineup that they are, Don Brewer is still on drums, and did an amazing job, in my opinion, playing drums, singing lead. As far as I could tell, everything was live. There was nothing, piped in. There was no tracks. They were playing live, and they did an hour-and-a-half show, really entertained the crowd there. And I would just, I don't know. I haven't checked to see if they're really touring a lot. But I highly recommend them if your audience is a fan of their band or of that band and they're okay with the current lineup, but the way it is, they're well worth seeing. I really enjoyed that show, and I just wanted to let you and your audience know that and kind of get your thoughts on if you've seen them live in recent history or not.
I have not seen them live, and thank you, Jeremy, for the call. I've not seen them live in a long time. Bruce Kulick was their guitar player for a long time, and he retired from, resigned from playing with them a couple years ago, I guess it's been now. But I've not seen them in a long time. And they have consistently played predominantly, weekend fly dates, not touring, but as many acts do, go out and play weekend shows for a long time now with a different lineup, 2 of the 3 original members. And yes, I do think that they absolutely are a snub for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But, what they're doing right now, the hardcore fans, the purists, they've got there's an issue there because Mark Farner was a huge, huge, huge part of Grand Funk Railroad. And has not been there for a very, very long time. So do they do well? And again, like we just talked about, we've seen every band come out with every possible configuration imaginable. And some of it is accepted, some isn't, some does well, but not as well if it was the original guys. I'm sure they do fine. Like you said, they had 2,000-3,000 people, whatever the show you went to is, and I'm sure they sound great. I just know that, and I'm not a hardcore Grand Funk guy, but I just know that among the hardcore Grand Funk community, it's a tough, even though they've been doing it for decades, it's a tough pill to swallow. No Mark Farner, especially with Mark active and still playing and doing things. We've had him on this show. I say that all the time, and I really believe it. If a band is touring or playing shows without a key member, and the reason is the key member is deceased, I think you get way more lenience then from the fans. But if the key member that most of the fans want back in the band is still alive, and even more so, still active and touring and making music, that's really hard because the fans know that person should and could be back in that band. Something different would be the case of Mick Mars, because Mick Mars is not in Motley Crue any longer. He resigned from touring because of his health conditions and does not tour. Thankfully, he's still with us. So there's a little kind of an asterisk moment there. But I just saw Stone Temple Pilots a week and a half ago. That band is all original except for the singer, who sadly cannot be there because he's deceased. Do you see what I'm saying? I think it's different. When you look at Grand Funk, Mark Farner's still active, and he cast a huge shadow on that band, and there's some segments of their fan base that, it's a non-starter for them to have the band without him. That's a whole nother conversation, and we can get into it some time, but there's bands without missing key members because they just don't want them in the band, and there was some falling out. Or if you're only reason somebody's not in the band is because they're not alive anymore and everybody else is original, I think it's a little different then. And STP would be an example of that. Let's say hi to Brian, who's in Pennsylvania, joining us today. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Eddie, how you doing?
Good, man.
Good. Hey, wanted some information on this Blue Dot thing your callers call in. I'm planning on doing something on August 21st. I'm going to drive from my work in Annapolis, Maryland. I work at the Naval Academy. I'm retired Navy. And I'm going to drive to Philly to see Rush without a ticket.
Okay.
So are they using Ticketmaster for these Blue Dots to get these the price discounts or the price reductions?
Well, it doesn't matter what platform you're going to use. I mean, there's a million ticketing platforms out there, Brian. There's StubHub, there's Vivid Seats, there's obviously Ticketmaster. There's a bunch of platforms. You just have to shop around and look at the different platforms. The one thing that I would caution you against, though, Brian, is that, there are a lot of tours. The majority of tours and shows have a lot of what they call blue dots because that means open seats, meaning that you're going to get in way cheaper at showtime. I will tell you this, and I'd caution you on this. Rush is not one of those bands. Rush, because they have not toured in 10 years, are doing very, very well. Their ticket prices are holding, and most of those shows are pretty sold out. So you'll get in, but you might not get a bargain basement deal on that because that's a pretty hot tour and a hot ticket.
Right. Well, I'm going to give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody, and good luck to you, Brian, and thank you. I don't know anybody. I've not really heard of an example of anybody who has told me that they've done the waiting game and didn't get in at all, or got in and paid more than what the current market was showing. I mean, the worst case scenario I've heard is people got in at face price, maybe not in the best location they wanted to be in or something like that. But when Brian calls in talking about the well-publicized lately blue dot fever, what that means, where that came from, I did not invent that term. Where that came from is artists cancel shows and make up reasons for the cancellation, saying there's some illness or somebody got sick, because they don't want to admit the real reason in many cases is because of poor ticket sales. Because very few artists or promoters will come out and say, yeah, we had to cancel, nobody bought tickets. Lately, we've seen a few actually do that, which is refreshing. But very, very, very rarely does that happen. So they come up with an excuse. And the joke in the industry has been, oh, they got a fever, all right. They got the blue dot fever, meaning if all you got to do is go to the show and look at all the blue dots in the seating chart, those are open seats, there's your fever. They didn't sell tickets. That's what that's all about. But I mean, you can see for yourself how a show is doing online and see how many seats are there and open and what have you. But yeah, I would caution 95% of the shows, it's going to work to your favor and get in way cheaper, especially amphitheater shows. You know, we're in the summer sheds, amphitheaters. I mean, it's rampant there. We had somebody call in last week. They got a Motley Crue ticket for $10, get in, and then they got upgraded for $15, and they sat in a seat that was selling for $500 in like the 10th row. Guy called in and told the story last week. The amphitheater shows, it's very prominent to get those deals. But some of the big hot tours, it might not bottom out. And I would definitely put Rush in one of those categories where you just got to be careful there. So if you're driving far or whatever and you want to make sure you're getting in, you might want to play that a little earlier and have your tickets in hand maybe a little bit earlier and just keep an eye on it. Maybe a day or two before you leave or whatever is the time to pull the trigger on that. I think I told you guys, I'm trying to figure out how to work that with sports right now because I'm looking to buy tickets for the Giants at Rams in week 2 in LA at SoFi. So I'm watching the Rams tickets on all these platforms and I'm seeing the prices move around already a month out from the game. So I'm going to just keep watching it and then pull the trigger at the right time. But for me, if I'm going to travel to LA to go to a game, I'm probably going to want to know I got my tickets in hand a couple days before and not be out in the parking lot. I think it's a little different with sports than concerts. Here's JJ in San Antonio. Hi, JJ.
Hey, Eddie, man, I hear you're coming back to town. Hey, and this time the Final Four is not here, so it shouldn't be so crazy.
Oh, right. Well, last time I was there, that's right. That was happening. And yes, I am I will be in San Antonio this coming Friday, and I will be in Houston this coming Sunday with the UFO Tribute Lights Out. So I look forward to making my second ever trip to San Antonio coming up this Friday at Fitzgerald's. Looking forward to it.
Well, hopefully you'll get a chance to, hang out downtown on the Riverwalk a little bit and stuff like that. But, hey, last week I had a chance to introduce the Pat Travers Band on stage at a club here and met Pat before and after the show. And super nice guy, man, just great dude and loves his fans. And, of course, his trio, put on a great show and just a lot of fun.
Yeah, Pat is great. Pat's still consistently good every time I've seen him. Pat was one of the artists that turned up at my 40th party a couple years ago. He played Snorting Whiskey and then did his thing and then disappeared into the casino. I didn't really hang much at the end, but Pat's a warrior, man. He's been out there doing it since the 70s, and he's still doing it well, and the trio's great, and he's killer. I always enjoy seeing him live when I can.
72 years old and still doing it, man. So what can you say? Hey, he when he was on stage, he said that he was working on a new project. It was an album of his favorite remakes, and so they did a live version of Blood, Sweat, and Tears Spinning Wheel. Obviously a little more guitar oriented, and it was great. So you may want to text him and tell him to come on the show.
Yeah, well, when he puts a record out, I'm sure he'll hit me up. He usually does. We're in touch from time to time. So, yeah, I'd absolutely have him on whenever that record comes out, whenever it's done. Thank you, JJ. I hope I appreciate the phone call, and I hope to see you if you make it out on Friday to Fitzgerald's in San Antonio. Yep, the UFO Tribute Lights Out that actually features UFO's drummer Andy Parker with a new lineup. The last time I was in San Antonio was for this band as well. They brought me there to host the show, and they're doing it once again this coming Friday. And it was a packed house last time. It should be even more packed this time. And again, a new lineup for Lights Out, which is really, really killer. Mark Bowles singing. It's going to be great. So look forward to returning to San Antonio on Friday. And again, we're doing the same thing in Houston Sunday afternoon at Warehouse. So I've got Friday, San Antonio, Sunday in Houston coming up this weekend. Let's go to Louisiana and say hi to Barry. He's been waiting for a minute. Thank you for hanging in there, Barry. You're on the air.
Oh, always good to talk to you. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. What's going on?
Shout out this weekend, Drew Brees going into the Hall of Fame, the greatest Saint ever.
Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame induction ceremony is when? Saturday.
Saturday. Saint Nation will be out in full force. Yes, sir.
The game is third. That means there's what, a preseason game Thursday this week?
I think so. I think it's Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a football freak, as everybody knows. I'm a Giants freak, but I mean, Hall of Fame game is tough to watch because they're playing like, nobody in those games. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's playing in the Hall of Fame game. Do you know?
I don't, man. We just go to party Saturday.
You're better off. It's the Panthers and the Cardinals.
Yeah. So will the starting quarterbacks play a couple snaps even, do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But I'll tell you what, if I'm in front of a TV, I'll put it on because it's just the feel of football. It gets me going, man. I'm ready.
I got a couple of concert things, but so I'm in LSU country here in Baton Rouge. They play Ole Miss the third week of the season back in Ole Miss. Of course, Lane Kiffin came from there. Hotels are running in the vicinity. Hotels, which usually run about $159 a night, are at the moment running for $12.59 a night.
God, unbeliable, man!
And they always want to arrest some lump who's selling during a hurricane a $2 bag of ice for $5, but that's a $3 difference. I mean, $1,000 above, and anyway, that's off subject.
Yeah, well, these places, real quick, Barry, to your point. These companies, these outlets, they're going to fleece people when they know there's an event going on. I'll give you an example. So as a Giants fan in New Jersey, when I look at the away games for the Giants where they're playing the 8 road games or whatever, if you go, so United Airlines, which is kind of like the airline of the Giants and basically controls all of Newark Airport, you will go online and you can look and say, okay, the Giants are playing the Niners on this weekend. Okay, let me look at a flight from New Jersey to San Francisco to go to the game. You will notice those flights a day or two before the game will be ramped up in price because they get the schedule and they know that people are going to go to road games from New Jersey to go see the Giants on the road. Like, that's how much they think it out. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really bad. Again, I do have a concert thing, but I have a show suggestion since you mentioned it about this week. If I could give it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever done it, but I was thinking the other day, 5 songs that we have to admit are absolute rock and roll classics, but as soon as we hear them, we turn the channel because we never need to hear them again. Or either take the positive attitude, 5 songs that we should hate because we've heard them so much, but we still turn them up because I do that too. So that's just a suggestion.
Well, I think the terminology would just be the five songs you're most burnt on that you can never hear anymore. And I think that's a great one. We can put that on the list because I got 20 at least off the top of my head.
Exactly. Okay, here we go. I saw the best tribute concert ever 2 weeks ago. Britt Floyd came to Baton Rouge, and they played from 7:30 till 10:30 with a 20-minute intermission. I noticed things a lot of times. They stayed in their lane. They played classic 70s Pink Floyd. But when they played like 3 David Gilmour eras, flights to the toilet, brother. People were just moving to the toilets on those songs, so there's no doubt. I've always said it, Pink Floyd ain't Pink Floyd without Roger Waters. Those tickets, okay, so 2,000-seat arena. Those tickets started at $66 per, and a few days beforehand they went down to $46, and that's as low as I saw them. A friend and I are going to see the Doobie Brothers / Santana at the Woodlands in Houston in about 2 weekends, and we got tickets through Ticketmaster. Now, we're on the lawn. If you've been there, it's an outdoor thing. We got tickets for $31, and then this past Friday night, Bryan Adams and Pat Benatar were at the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans, $35 to start. So I just wanted to get your take on that the tribute band actually started about twice as expensive on the entry-level tickets.
The tribute show, the Britt Floyd show was at what size venue? How many people?
So, right. The other 2 were in 16,000-seat arenas, and the Britt Floyd was in a 2,000-seat amphitheater.
Yeah, well, there you go,
Great
Barry.
show.
Yeah,
Great show,
thank you, Barry. Oh, sorry, man. Didn't mean to cut you off. Thank you for the call. By the way, we had the Brit Floyd guy on here twice in the last couple of years because it's crazy that what they're doing as a tribute act. And they're playing here in Vegas, but it's not till October. If I'm in town, I'm going to try to go see them just because I'm curious. I'm not a massive Pink Floyd fan, but I'd be curious to see them just because the business they're doing is crazy. But there you go. I mean, it's a tribute show. It's a much smaller venue, 3,000 tickets versus 16,000 tickets. And yeah, some of these tributes are doing unbelievable business. And the real answer there as to why those other shows fell out, way more available tickets. So, like I talk about all the time, no promoter wants an empty seat at a concert because an empty seat generates zero money. An empty seat doesn't bring in parking, concessions, merch, beer, food, pretzels, nothing. Empty seat generates zero. A person in a seat, even if they didn't pay for the seat, generates money on all those ancillary things. So that's been the model for a long time. Getting people in there at whatever price, and that's why you have those flex ticket pricing and all that stuff you have to opt into when you buy a ticket. But it doesn't surprise me that those other shows came out being cheaper because you had 5-6 times the amount of tickets to be sold, even though they are obviously bigger actual acts. It's a game, folks. It's like playing the stock market. And I don't know, I just mentioned, trying to get tickets for this Giants-Rams game. I'm going to find out firsthand because I'm working it right now, but I don't know if it works that way with sports. I imagine it does where it bottoms out. I've sold some of my Giants season tickets online to games I'm not going to because I rarely go because I'm rarely in New Jersey and I travel sometimes on the weekends, so I can't go. But I've sold my tickets, and same deal. If they're sitting on the Ticketmaster site and they're not sold, I'm going to have to, level out the price or drop the price. Sometimes they take a loss. Sometimes they make a couple bucks. At the end of the day, you just hope it all, in the end, for the whole season, it's somewhat of a wash. All right, well, thank you for that. And we got to do one more quick break. So let's take care of that right now. And when we come back, we'll keep working through a Monday, shaking off the cobwebs, coming off the weekend. I saw AC/DC on Saturday. If you missed my recap of that, again, you know the deal. You can always rewind the show to the beginning or listen to it on demand from the beginning anytime you want on our app. We'll come back another half an hour here on our show here on Faction Talk before I jump over to Hair Nation for the Monday-only show for a few hours. Be right back with more of your calls after this.
I'm a fast mover, baby. I can show you around. Well, I have so much of you. We're never coming down. It's not whiskey.
Sirius XM Faction Talk.
Here to get my Trunk Nation medication, baby.
Trunk Nation.
Let's give the people what they need.
In Trunk.
All right, we're back. Yeah, I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but I am out of my mind for football season to start. We're a little under a month away from real games, and I'm telling you, it's like crazy. Like every night I go to sleep listening to Giants podcasts. You can't believe the shit that I listen to. I was listening to one the other day. Like, because now the camps are open, so I'm listening to these guys that are at the camps and giving their breakdowns of every play and every series and every practice they're doing, and the fourth string running back and how he looked, and it's like somebody got to get me help. I'm in such a Giants frenzy. But now, I always know too, because a great marker about football season being near is my birthday. And my birthday is this Saturday. And historically, the Giants play their first preseason game right around my birthday every year. So I'm like, getting closer. Each thing is like a little marker, like the spring camp, and now you got the actual camps opened, and then you get the first preseason game. I think they only play 3 preseason games. I think some teams only play 2. Now, I think they cut it way back, which is probably smart because those are a waste of time. Again, I'll watch my team because it's my team, but anyway, for those that are NFL junkies, we are near. As they're now showing Aaron Rodgers, who's on his farewell tour. Aaron Rodgers is like like the Eagles of sports. Been on a farewell tour for like 20 years. Now, in fairness to Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he ever said he was done. It's people speculating if he's done, but now he says he's done after this year with the Steelers. Let's go to Sophia, who's in Connecticut, joining us. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, Eddie. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
I wanted to discuss Richie Sambora with you. I heard that he was part of that Kings of Chaos event this weekend, and I honestly think that he should reconsider possibly rejoining Bon Jovi and maybe having Phil X take John Shank's spot, and then Richie taking Phil's spot. And then I also wanted to ask you if you would ever get any of the other members of the band on the show.
Well,
because I know you've had David Bryan on before.
It's been a while since I talked to David, but yeah, but hold on. Let me stop you on your first point.
I'm sorry, I'm going too fast.
No, it's all good. But the big thing, though, is this. I mean, the decision about Richie being in Bon Jovi, if Richie wanted to do it, comes down to John. I mean, John would have to want him in. He can't. Richie can't announce tomorrow, I want to be back in Bon Jovi and just return. John runs that show and has from day one. So the question really is on John, not on Richie.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's not his band to reinsert himself into. He was an enormous part of it, but he would have to be made that offer by John. Without that happening, there's no conversation at all. So that's the thing. And by the way, if Richie ever did go back to Bon Jovi, and I'd love to see it, and most people would, I also believe that Phil X would remain in the band, exactly to your point. Whether he replaced John Shanks or just was added into the fold, I don't think John would ever do a show again with Richie, given what happened when Richie didn't show up and all of that, without Phil there as a security blanket. I don't think that would ever happen. So I think Phil's gig is safe no matter what were to happen. But it's John's. Those are all John's decisions to make, not Richie's. Of course, Richie would have to want to do it.
So you're saying that Phil is pretty much John's security blanket on whether Richie, if this did happen, on whether Richie would rejoin the band or not. Phil would be John's security blanket to fall back.
I don't think Phil. I don't think, this is just my take, and from what I know, but I don't think if Richie came back, I think Phil would absolutely remain in the band and then just probably fall back into more of a supporting role, playing rhythm guitar, playing maybe an occasional solo. And the other thing that Phil does is sing extraordinarily well and help in the vocal department. Because as we've seen with Bon Jovi, I mean, he has a bunch of supporting musicians up there. He's got a percussionist. So, he's got his own little Lee Street band. I personally think he'd just leave Phil there. His role would change, but I think, and as we can see from the fact that they were both just on stage together on the weekend, they clearly function together and get along. I mean, there's no animosity, clearly.
Yeah, that's why I figured I would bring it up to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, the other side of it, and thank you, Sophia, for the call. You know, Richie has had his struggles. We all know that. So for this to all work, you know, John would have to want it. Richie would have to want it. And Richie would and John would have to be convinced that Richie is going to be reliable and, you know, able to do a full show and, you know, healthy enough to do a full show. And because, again, John has talked about this. He was stung by the fact that Richie didn't show up for a gig. And that's where Phil X came in and became the security blanket then. So I don't think you're ever going to see Bon Jovi play without Phil on that stage in some capacity. It's too much risk, you know, on the line. And Phil has been a super reliable person that's filled that role. Again, not just a guitar playing standpoint, vocally as well, because that's a big part of what Richie brings, vocals. Richie's a phenomenal singer. Even in those little clips with Kings of Chaos, he sings great. So you need that vocal support, especially with all that John has gone through with his voice. So yeah, that's my take on it. But I'll tell you what, my take on it right now, I don't think it's even in discussion because we just saw Bon Jovi sell out 9 shows, I think it was, at Madison Square Garden. And those tickets did not bottom out. That was a pretty real ticket. And is now about to go to Europe and do a stadium without Richie Sambora and selling tickets in droves. And that is no slight at all on Richie. But as I talk about a million times, I mean, I wouldn't think that we'd be seeing people flock to Rush without Neil Peart. I didn't think 25 years ago we'd see people go see Kiss with 2 guys, let's be honest, impersonating Ace and Peter. Not a diss to them, but that's what they were doing. I mean, we've seen stuff we would never think we'd see, and people go, yeah, I thought there'd be no problem AC/DC not having Cliff Williams. That's not a slight to Cliff, but Cliff was not a star in that band. People thought you'd never see Journey without Steve Perry. That's been going for 30 years plus, packing venues. So what would seemingly be the irreplaceable, history has shown us if promoters can sell it and people go buy it, there's no incentive to bring these other people back. What does it do if you have beef or drama or insecurity with some of these other musicians, or you question their ability or where they're at in their life at that point, and it's not going to move the needle that much on your bottom line, meaning your attendance or the money you're making on a gig? I mean, there's a lot of people are like, what? The people who run the bands are like, why bother? They just sold out 9 shows at Madison Square Garden. Does not mean I wouldn't want to see it. It doesn't mean most people wouldn't want to see it. But at the end of the day, what is the business? And that's what all the managers and agents will default to. Ray in Maryland, thanks for waiting. What's going on, bud?
Not much, man. How are you, Eddie?
I'm doing all right.
Well, good. I got to tell you about my celebration of life for Ozzy Osbourne. It started with your show. I got to talk to you, Don, and Jim, and bring my top 5 Ozzy Sabbath songs. And it was cool to talk to all 3 That Metal guys, That Metal Show guys at once. And, I've talked to you many times. It's enough with you already. But I had been able to talk to Don. I talked to Don once on your show, but I never talked to Florentine, so that was cool. That's what started it. And then that same Friday night, I got to go see the Land of Oz at a place called Paradise Grill. And I've mentioned this tribute band. They're out of Pennsylvania, but they come around my area once in a while, so I got to see them. And my God, were they so goddamn good, Eddie. I briefly talked with their singer, and I've kind of gotten to know him a little bit. And his name is Steven Desco, and they even threw in a bonus track, which I had never heard them do. They did a Dio Sabbath song and threw in Heaven and Hell. And this guy, this guy morphs in. After 3 songs, you forget you're seeing a tribute band. And, you think you're at an Ozzy show, and he's just so good at it. And then when they did do the Heaven and Hell, he morphed into Dio. It was fucking crazy, dude. So I mean, that was amazing. And then the very next day, I have the Back to the Beginning show on Blu-ray. I got it about 2 weeks after it aired. It's a bootleg.
How do you have that as a boot? You have it as a bootleg, or did they sell that?
No, it was sold to me, but it was about $25. We ordered it and took a gamble on it.
So it's a bootleg. Somebody recorded it and they're putting it out. Okay.
Absolutely.
Is the quality good?
Oh my God, it's as good as the stream, audio and video, and it's on 2 Blu-rays. And the video and audio are as good as the stream. So I ended up revisiting that and I made that my part 3 of my Ozzy celebration of life, and it was just cool. It wasn't all planned, other than we had planned to go see the Land of Oz at this place called Paradise Grill, which is a great resort right on the beach, really cool. And so it ended up being like a 3-part celebration of Ozzy, and that was really cool. And thanks for letting me talk to all of you That Metal Show guys. That was really awesome. And when the fuck are you getting me your 40th party, Eddie?
Well, maybe somebody should just bootleg it at this point. Maybe I should leak the thing and somebody else just distribute it like that.
Well, give me the fucking link and I'll do it.
So, here's the thing. So I am looking at, I have this in my studio here, and thank you, Ray. Appreciate it, man. When right above my head is a big poster from my 40th, which is signed by many of the artists who played it. And it is hanging here in my studio with the logo and all these signatures. So I'm looking at it as I speak. And there's the date, December 11th, 2023. So we are months away from it being 3 years. And I have said that one way or the other, I'm going to start putting this thing out by the 3rd year anniversary of the event. So that's by the end of the year is what I'm shooting for. And as I mentioned, I'm going to just I'm just put it on YouTube, free and clear to everybody. I'm just trying to make sure that's set up the right way. I'd love to put it out in some cool package, but I've been down those roads, and that's why it's been 2.5 years, because it's a nightmare. The legalities, the publishing, it's a nightmare. That's why I was talking earlier in the show. I don't know how Soren pulled that off with his thing so quickly. I don't know what he did. He may have had it set up in advance. I don't know. That was the one problem we had. We did not have clearances in place in advance. We decided kind of after the fact to do something with this. Kind of like what Matt said. He had only done it for his own use. That was kind of the original intention with this, but it came out so incredibly that we want everybody to see it. So we'll see. I'm actually got the hard drive sitting right here. So I might just start putting stuff up online myself. I don't know. It's just daunting. And then I don't really have people who are experts at doing it and the right way to do it, because there are right ways to do it. Some people say you never put the whole thing out at once. You got to go song by song. It's crazy. It's going to happen, though. It's too good to just be sitting in a desk. Here's Jamie in Kentucky. Go ahead, Jamie.
Hey, Eddie. I called you last week on the Once Bitten band. So I just go see them, and I did. And it was that gentleman, last name is Freeman. And they did a really good job opening up for Firehouse.
So
And
wait,
then
did
the
Andrew?
next night I
Hold
went-
on. Did Andrew sing for them? It was him.
Yes. Yeah, he was fantastic.
Oh, he's a
The whole
great
band
singer.
was great.
But because I brought that up because Lynch Mob also played here in Vegas this weekend on Friday. I did not go to that, and Andrew sings with Lynch. I wasn't sure which gig he was doing, but he actually listens to the show, and he had texted me that he wasn't doing Lynch because that was more of a last-minute thing. So I figured you'd get him in that band. Interestingly, he also sang in Firehouse at one point, subbing for CJ when CJ was sick.
Right, so that's probably the connection there too. And then, so then the next night we went to see the other Great White, obviously, and Beaver Dam, and Mike Tramp's White Lion, Stephen Adler's, gig. And Mark Kendall did not play. I don't know if he's had a relapse in cancer or whatever, but he did not play either show in Louisville or Beaver Dam the next night. So they did a good job. Whoever the guy was, he did a good job portraying him. But Brett Carlisle really overcompensated and kept working the crowd. He's a very good young talent. So and I got to meet Mike Tramp. Mike Tramp was a fantastic gentleman. He's one of the nicest guys in rock and roll. There's no question about it.
Well, yeah, I've known Mike forever, and absolutely, and he gets out there and hangs with the crowd. I know that, usually hangs around by merch, says hello to people, so that's very cool. Yeah, thank you, Jamie. I hope Mark Kendall's okay. Mark has been public on social media that he is battling cancer, and I certainly wish him the best in what he's dealing with. He has played shows with Great White while he's been going through all this, but I don't know where he's at with his hopeful recovery at this point. Also thought it was cool over the weekend, Blackie Lawless making a statement about Chris Holmes and encouraging people to help and support Chris if they can as he goes through, I believe it's prostate cancer now, his third battle of some sort of cancer. We talked about that a week or so ago. And, Blackie and Chris have always had a little bit of a rub between them, so that was nice to see. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Let you know on socials what we're doing tomorrow. We may have a guest. We might do a throwdown. I'm not sure. We got some stuff up in the air. But I will be back live with you tomorrow, of course, at 3 o'clock Eastern for Trunk Nation on Faction Talk. Coming up in minutes, I'll give you 3 extra...